Hey, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of Made Possible by Pop Culture, the podcast that deep dives into pop culture's past and present. Today's episode is one I have been teasing for a little bit now. It's a look into Welcome to Derry. If you listen to this year's Halloween Roundtable, you know I'm a huge fan of Stephen King, and you know that it was the first book of his I ever read, so I am deeply invested in this world. For this episode, I am beyond excited to have Chris Chalk joining me. Chris's casting was the one that I was most excited about when I first started tracking this show. Not only because he's taking on the iconic character of Dick Hallorann, but also because I have watched him steal scenes for years. From Homeland and 12 Years a Slave to Underground and When They See Us, and more recently, you know him from Gotham, Godzilla vs. Kong, and Our Deadly Vows, which he also directed. Chris, thank you so much for coming on Made Possible by Pop Culture.
Thank you for having me on Made Possible by Pop Culture.
I have to say it was a little daunting, like trying to choose what credits of yours to list in that intro. I feel like I left out a couple of ones I really liked, including, I will say, one of your first credits as the coat seller in the adaptation of
Come
Rent.
on, dude. And the name keeps changing over time. So I don't know
Really?
why. It used to be vendor who sells coats. And then it was coat seller. And then it was guy that sells coats. I was like, wait, why are we spending money on this?
That's
Why are we?
interesting. And also,
Yeah.
I do want to ask you, I know this is taking you way back, and I promise everyone
Oh, I'll
listening.
remember. Weirdly, I remember that whole shoot.
Well, I was gonna say it kind of connects because you picked something musical for your past influence. So like I'm trying to draw threads, but I am curious when you first were brought on board that film, if the role was different. Because in the play, that role is a bigger part because there's Christmas bells and there's the whole moment where Angel is trying to find a new coat for Tom Collins and there's
Mhm.
humor and then we find out like, oh, you're the one that stole the coat in the first place. But in the movie, in the edit that we all see, it's very quick because it's in Santa Fe and you're just selling a coat.
It was both shorter than I thought and longer. There was helicopter coverage of that scene. Christopher Columbus covered that 42 seconds in so many ways. My lines were given to me, they were taken away, we switched them, we moved. I remember just being like, okay, this is movie making, but I think it was always a one day gig
Okay.
in my brain. Um,
So you never had to sing for Christmas bells, is what I'm getting at.
it's important that I don't.
Okay.
No, I can sing, but I'm not. I just know that, like, I used to audition for musical theater and then I listened to real musical theater and thought, why am I wasting people's time? I actually was a reader for Telsey and Company for 8 years, 7 years. And so I was the reader for a lot of musicals. I remember The Color Purple in particular humbled me
Hmm.
because every single person that came in is better than me. So, like, why am I going to go in at singing? Now, look, I love myself. I love what I do, but like singing is a skill,
Yeah.
and that is mine is like college level.
Okay. But I mean, music seems to be a big part because for
Love
the
music.
past pop culture influence, you chose Aretha Franklin's Let It Be cover.
Hmm.
So I imagine that whether you feel like you're a professional level or not, it means something to you to be immersed in that world.
When I was in, it actually started in when I played the viola. I would go out. I would stop playing so I could hear harmony, so I could hear music come together, so I could hear the drums beat. I was the most useless member in the chorus when I did in college. I did what's it called? We know the name of it. Hair. I did hair.
Oh,
I did
wow.
and I was HUD. I didn't need to sing. I was flat. It was terrible. But boy, being in those chorus songs for me, when it's like humanity, when we all
Hmm.
come together and stop caring about stuff and just listen to how awesome shit is. Oh, come on, dude. Unbelievable. Truly unbelievable. I love it. I
Yeah.
love
I mean,
music.
the energy, the community that it can give you. I do want
Yes.
to talk about this pick because I found it really interesting because it is so specific. You didn't say Aretha Franklin in general. You didn't say a specific album. You picked a very specific song. So
Yes.
take us back, set the scene. Little Chris. I mean, you weren't born yet when the song came out, so like
It's
whenever
true.
Little Chris, whenever you were when you found it, which maybe wasn't so little, I don't know, where you were in time and place when you first heard it, and what if you can remember that feeling and why it became such an influence.
I remember my mother had a lot of records. So we lived in this one, we're very, very poor. We lived in this one bedroom house that we were renting from our church, Hill Street Baptist Church. And she often played music, and it was going to be Percy Sledge, Ray Charles,
Hmm.
Luther Vandross, or Aretha Franklin. Um, that's pretty much her cycle was that, or unless there was randomly there were some Disney albums, which is just they weren't for us.
Well, that's okay. Disney adults were a thing then,
I
they're
know.
a
It's
thing
just weird to
now.
be like sexual healing and then be like
Oh
one,
yeah.
two, three, four. And I remember the first time I heard that cover, I didn't know the Beatles existed. So it's also a song that kept growing on me once I realized, like, oh, that's not her song. So listening to Aretha, understanding that music can move me because I had a pretty tough childhood. So I get my first, headphones. We had moved to this other place, and I don't know why, but I started walking to school.
Mm.
And so first I'd listen to Ray Charles's Don't Change on Me, and then I would listen to Aretha Franklin's Let It Be. And since I can't find a digital copy of Ray Charles's Don't Change on Me, it's gone away. It's a specific
Oh
recording
wow.
that's only
Yeah.
on the 45 because they used to do so many different versions.
Yeah.
I cannot
And
find the
nobody has
version
ripped
to
it.
save my life. Can't find this one specific version.
I
And I heard
guarantee you after this, somebody will
that's what I'm
hear this
hoping.
and rip it and put it on YouTube,
That's
which,
kind of partly why I'm saying
yeah,
it.
yeah,
So
yeah.
whoever rips this, rip several
Please.
versions of it because I've tried this. But Aretha Franklin's cover of Let It Be, I have listened to nearly every day of my life since fifth grade.
Wow.
Because it makes me cry, it opens me up, it reminds me not to like take it all too seriously. And then she's also the best at what she does. You know what I mean? Like, and she's a little rude, which I like.
Well, I mean,
uh,
it is interesting to hear everyone talk about this as a cover because yes, the Beatles did it, but hers technically came out first. And so
oh,
like colloquially, we kind of all accepted the Beatles as the first one, which I'm like mad about because
sure.
I'm a very big time matters, words matter, like
Yeah,
history and linear, all that stuff makes a difference. And we are sort of rewriting history sometimes when we
sort of.
well, this is maybe not the most serious example, but it is
Yeah.
an example of like, you're kind of pushing something aside for something else. I am curious though if you did or how you felt if you then heard the Beatles version. Were
Oh, it
you
doesn't matter. It doesn't.
comparing?
It pales in comparison. What does it matter?
Okay.
Like even when she does Eleanor Rigby, who cares that the Beatles have done it? You know what I mean? When she does Scarborough Fair, who cares that they did it? You know what I mean? Like that's the thing about Aretha Franklin, and some of my other options for what to talk about
Hmm.
kind of speak to my athlete competitive nature. But this does too because she was always so dedicated to her craft, so mindlessly, unconsciously good at it, so good at it that she's undeniable. And I didn't have anything when I was growing up that I liked that much or that I was very good at. And so it was always a goal. That's the Michael Jordan of it all.
Hmm.
That's the like, I want to be good at something that comes from inside of me. And as that song continues to play, it's on every character's playlist, whether it's the
Oh
right
yeah, I was going
time
to ask
period
you
or
about
not.
that.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Whether
Because
it's the correct time period, I don't care.
well, listen, it doesn't have to be this correct time period to get you in the right mood or mindset for certain
Yeah,
thematic work and certain emotional work. So, yeah, I don't think that when I talk about time mattering, I don't necessarily think it matters in that way
yeah.
because unless it's in the show anachronistically, then I'll
And then
complain.
we're like, wait a second,
I
that's
mean,
not.
I will just say I did point out during my Halloween Roundtable episode that Welcome to Derry featured The Music Man, even though that came out in June of 1962, and
Can I
the
tell you,
show
I
is
was
set in
thinking that too. I
April.
was like,
I
wait
don't
a
want to
second.
do that to you because you didn't write that. That is something that I think about a lot in terms of like this. A song can capture a feeling of a moment in time, but it can also capture a feeling for a person that is timeless. And so that is
Mhm.
something I want to talk to you about in terms of like you saying you've listened to it every day for decades, essentially Are you listening to it at any point to get into it or out of a certain mood? Do you find that you
Oh
need
yeah,
it
I've used
that
it
way?
for both of those. I've used it to get into a mood. I'm going to listen to it no matter what.
Mhm.
So it has been a tool to get me into a mood. It's been a tool to take me into meditation and move me out of meditation. Before going into a jujitsu tournament back in the day, I listened to
Oh,
that song because now it's become such a centering part of what I do as a human being that, it's like some people do crack, I do Aretha Franklin's Let It
that is
Be.
a very strong dichotomy. Okay.
I'm a very strong guy.
When you talk about Aretha and you were talking about like her craft and being as good as she is at what she did,
Yeah.
was this the song that introduced you to her, or where does
No, no, no,
okay,
no,
where
no,
does this fall
no.
in, I guess, in terms of like
I
your
would never
fandom of
know that.
her?
Like I'll never know when I first heard what song. My memory doesn't work that way.
Okay.
I try not to remember things. My wife, it gets on my wife's nerves. I say I don't want to remember anything. I can ask because that's
Oh,
wasting brain space. My computer doesn't need to work that hard.
okay.
So I really don't have the greatest memory when it comes to times and dates. But I've listened to many. I think I've probably listened to every Aretha Franklin album that's been released. And and I'm sure some other songs have moved me as well, but this is the stick.
Yeah.
This is the spaghetti on the wall.
Yeah. So you were talking about obviously it's being on character playlists.
Hmm.
At what point was this helpful for Dick Hallorann? Like at what point in the story, if we haven't,
Hmm.
if we've seen it already, if it's a spoiler, you can just say it's a spoiler and like tell us what episode we should look for it in later. But
The way that I interpret this song is when stressed out, it's all good. Try not to like mess anything up. And I think this version of Dick Hallorann doesn't mind messing things up, and will step on a brain in order to survive. Like he
mm,
does not mind. And then there comes a point when he realizes that he is not as powerful as he thinks he is. And that's when this song matters.
mm.
And it doesn't necessarily work for him, but that's when the song matters. It's like you see these airmen on the base smoking joints, actually talking about Aretha Franklin.
Yeah, I
You
was gonna
see,
say that comes up
yeah,
that
which I didn't.
which they didn't obviously do because of you, I
No,
imagine.
no,
Yeah.
no, no, no. I
Okay.
wouldn't say obviously. I got a lot to say.
Well, no, I mean it depends on how much they know about you. Because I mean,
um,
some writers will write to their actors, but I don't know how many people on set know this story that
Not,
you're
I don't
telling.
think anybody knew that one that I even like adore her. So I mean,
Hmm.
like gowns, beautiful gowns. When people ask her about other artists, oh my God, she's so shady. I love it. No, they didn't know, but it is a great tool. And then I forgot what I was talking about.
Oh,
That's
well,
gonna happen a lot.
you were talking about the needing it for the moments where he's not as powerful as he thinks he is.
That's when it applies. I mean, I listen to the playlist when I warm up in my trailer before. I listen to it when my car picks me up and I'm going to set. Then you do all the hair and makeup stuff on heavy days. I keep the playlist in because I don't want to deal with all the chaos. But on days I feel like being social, I don't. But then before, when I'm doing my warm up, because I'm a theater kid, so I feel like you have to, and I think everybody should, but that's not my business. But then I'm on my trailer floor, not in costume, just in case you're listening, warming up. uh, and so the playlist itself gives me the kind of emotional range I'll need for that day. I wouldn't necessarily listen to it right before the scene
Sure.
because once we start rehearsing and all that, it's a different kind of gig. Even though it's episode 7, I did listen to it, but you haven't seen that yet.
Right. But that's a good little teaser of like, hey, it
It
was
was
really
necessary.
helpful. Yeah, it was really
Yeah.
important for whatever's going to happen to you in 7, which,
Or is it
given
6?
what we've seen so far, a lot of stuff has already happened. That's pretty bad.
There is, if this show had a title that was just based around my character, it would be like The Undoing of Dick. Because I mean, like, and that's all the characters. So there's no spoiling. It's just every character has to, in order to face your fear, you have to rip all the bullshit out of the way and face yourself. And as soon as he touches that slingshot
Mm.
in that plane, he goes, "Oh, This is forcing me to come to me, which is the thing I try my most not to do. Then you play that song, Let It Be, man. And then you're like, oh, just try a little bit.
So it's an interesting approach for the show, but the character lives so beyond this world. Like
Mhm.
historically and in pop culture, was that important in terms of knowing where he goes in order to step into him now? Because I would argue that we don't necessarily know for sure he goes where he goes because they've created their own little version of the world by changing the timelines. But I don't know how that works for you as an actor in your process of like, do I need to have a sense of what's to come? Should I do research into what's to come in King's version of him, or is that just going to mess me up completely?
I think any information that exists on Earth you go for, and if it's not useful, you get rid of it.
Okay.
Whether that means looking at fan fiction, which I did for like 5 minutes,
I,
whether that means
okay.
looking on the fan Wikipedia and seeing what fans and Reddit, see what I gave that about 10 minutes. I gave all the performances of the past around 35, 45 minutes. That would be destructive. To like just keep watching someone
Yeah.
else's version is not helpful. Not
Yeah.
helpful at all. Information wise, it's helpful, but then it becomes like I'm not trying to be Scatman's version of Dick Hallorann. I'm Stephen King's version of
Hmm.
Dick Hallorann. So we all have the same source material, so we should be kind of in a similar arena. It is helpful to, I believe that this is where he's headed for sure.
Okay.
I think he's going to the Overlook at some point, but that's 30 years from now.
Right.
So like he can be whoever we all decide he is, and definitely if he's the same version, that's terribly boring. So
Yeah, I think part of it for me was also thinking like if you're worried too far into the future about who he becomes, how that might affect the mannerisms, the attitude, the things you're doing now, which maybe he wouldn't have because the events that caused them haven't happened yet, if that makes
but
sense.
I do
You
think
don't
you
want to
can
do
break it
anything
down
pure.
backwards.
Okay.
I think you break it down. If he has a limp, when did he get hurt?
Yes.
If he has a weird eye, when did it happen? Can it happen during the show and be a little spoil, like a little like thing,
Hmm.
Easter egg for the fans? You know what I mean? So I think I don't think it's necessary, but we all have our preference of how we build our characters. It is my preference to gather as much information as humanly possible and then dig in the bag and play and create my own stuff.
Now, he's obviously a fictional character. So, all the things that you're talking about, is this a different way of working for you
No,
from when you play real people?
no, because you got to find out what everybody loves. A person is a person. Playing a human being is taking the response for me and my preference of how to do this.
Hmm?
My wife and I very much have to be like, when we watch other shows, we go, it's our preference to be good. That's terrible, but it's true. We have to
Oh,
go.
but it's,
It's our
yeah, yeah.
preference. Everybody doesn't have to do what I do. It's not. Every character I have here. I was looking to see if this was reachable. This
Okay.
is my book for Dick.
Wow. Okay, so for anyone who's not watching this on YouTube, it is very thick. It is like a
It's
Stephen
very
King
thick. It's
novel.
got. I can't show you too much because
No,
that's
yeah. Oh,
stuff
that's
for
cool. It's got
later.
sketches.
That's here's blocking for some stuff.
Sure.
And then it comes into like my psychosis. Every character gets one because every character, if I don't, the way I can be as easy as humanly possible is to do as much homework. And I think the homework of an actor is to learn a person as well as I know myself. And I know myself really well. So I put all my little guys through the ringer, whether that's James Baldwin, whether that's Lucius Fox, whether that's Yusuf Salam. And luckily with real people, I mean, James Baldwin was the best. I already know so much. And then
Right.
I was like, I'm being paid to learn more about my favorite person. Awesome. I'll do
Right.
this all day.
But is
Excuse me.
there more or less freedom for you? Because when it's a real person, like there's a person to quote unquote answer to. Although I guess maybe in a way you do feel like you have to answer to Stephen King because he's hated some previous adaptations.
I don't feel like I have to answer to anybody.
Okay.
As an adult human being on earth doing whatever I want to do. I mean, like if we want to talk, not to be annoying, but like I'm not the president of the United States. I'm just a
Right.
dude. Come on. Like why who I gotta answer to? Come on.
That's
You don't
fair.
like it? I don't care if you don't like it.
That's
It doesn't
fair. But
matter
I
if you
think
don't like it.
I do think a lot of people get nervous, especially if they're playing someone who's still alive. I think it's like, well, we wanna make sure that we respect
I think
whatever. And
for James Baldwin, I was the most anxious I've ever been playing anything because I like him. And that was my
yeah,
own
yeah,
psychological mistake of being like, I revere him. Otherwise, a character's a character and I'm going to do my job. I've been doing this for a long ass time.
yeah.
So, like, I can't, a lot of people like me and a lot of people don't. I can't worry about it. Okay.
Yeah.
And if I start adding the universal psychosis into my, what was the point of therapy? If just because a lot of people do it, like I don't care. Those they should go to my therapist. They would stop.
Yeah, but I think if a lot of people went to therapy, we wouldn't have the industry we have. So, we do need some of the crazy in the industry in order to get some of the performances we get. I will say that. I will take ownership for saying
I'm
that.
gonna let you have that.
I was gonna say it's not healthy. I'm aware of that. All right, so I want to dive into your version of Dick a little bit more because I mean, as you started talking about like certainly when he touches that slingshot on the plane, that is transforming his experience. But
Mm.
when we meet him on the base, he seems very cool. He seems very stoic in a way. Like we know he has these special privileges. If we know who he is from the King world, we know why he has these special privileges. But he has this like air of mystery around him. And that is both, I think, a blessing and a curse sometimes with characters because it allows audiences to project a lot onto them and to make assumptions. And I'm curious how you kind of worked through those early scenes before you really got into more meat for what he was going to quote unquote do. If you felt like there were certain things you wanted to plant seeds for so that audiences that didn't know who he was coming in, or just in general, they couldn't make assumptions you didn't want them to make.
I'm trying to remember how many scripts we had when we started, but it was more than one. So I'm not concerned. I mean, like I know if
Hmm.
I know where we're going and I give over the trust to Andy and Andrew and it, oh man, I knew that delivery was gonna come while we were doing this. I knew that FedEx
We
system.
don't hear it. I don't hear
Oh, I was
it.
like, oh, this asshole wants to come now. He has all day. Uh, that's really fun. I wish you had heard it. It's such an abrasive ringer we have.
It's all right. At least my dog usually barks in the background. So
Oh, okay.
usually you can't hear that either. So it's just me raising my
Oh,
volume, thinking, oh,
they're
no
like, why
one
are
can
you
hear
yelling?
me. Yeah,
Why are you
exactly.
yelling?
And then I have to adjust it in the edit.
This is going to be fun for the podcast to go get my FedEx. Got
Well,
no
don't
choice
show us anything you don't want us to see. I
because
mean,
homeboy won't come back, you know?
oh, that's a
Oh,
good
what's
point.
up, Obi? Yeah. Thank you, baby. Thank you. All right. Good to see you. That's my UPS man.
It's nice that you like know who these people are and like
That's
have a
Obi.
relationship.
And then the guy, if you had heard, one guy goes, that's my neighbor who literally sits on the stoop and says, hello, everybody. Hello to every single human that
Are you
walks
in New
by.
York?
Yeah, Brooklyn.
I was gonna say I grew up in Brooklyn. That's a very Brooklyn, New York in
We have
general.
a stoop guy next
Yes.
to us. It's the best because you know when something's going down.
Yeah.
Stoop man's gonna tell you.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm gonna answer your question.
That's okay. Well, I mean, you started to answer it just in terms of like having all the scripts and trusting the team.
Yeah, I think, and they changed so much because again, we went through we not again, but we went through four strikes. IATSE, actor, director,
Oh, while
writer.
you were
So, and
on the
the
show.
writers was the first one when we that so some things that we reshot got changed. There were scripts that we actually because we didn't shoot in order, so some stuff from one was shot 6 months into the thing. Uh that's true. And if not more than that. And
Oof.
so I was spending more time keeping the through line in my head more so than like I can't the beauty of not being the director, like I direct as well. The
Right.
beauty of not being the director is it's not my job to care about what the audience thinks.
Yeah.
It's not my job to my if I'm doing my job, which is not to be famous, which is not to have people like me and click my page, my job is to portray this character. If I'm
Mhm.
doing my job, I'm not thinking about any of that stuff,
Okay.
you know? And when I'm doing it in the most mature way, which isn't always the case. I don't think about this stuff. But for this, I did want to consider the only thing that I wanted to consider is staying in some sort of alignment with a similar idea of what the future is. Other than that,
Hmm.
it's just creating a human being who is suffering and in love
Mhm.
and then Andy has to deal with, does it look crazy to have Dick not talk? And
Well, he talked.
there was a version where when Dick and Leroy met, it was a phone call. Like they
Oh,
were in kind of a common area waiting for the phone, and as Dick pretended to talk on the phone, he was really trying to read old boy's head. And then
okay.
that scene, we actually never even shot that scene, that version of it. I kind of was like, oh, I really like that version. And then they decided through probably exactly what you're saying is going, okay, how do we want this to come off? Do we want him to? But as long as people are watching, let him project.
Mm,
Project, girl. Go ahead and project.
okay. I mean, yes, but then I'm also very aware of like some of the tropes that people might be projecting unfairly onto the character.
Not my
You don't
problem.
care. Okay. Fair enough.
Everybody else's trauma is everybody else's problem.
Yeah.
And mine is mine. Imagine me trying to make you deal with the stuff I deal with. That's not fair. So, like, just because I entertain for a living doesn't mean I care what
Yeah.
people like. This is for me. And then hopefully people like it. But like, yeah, I mean, and also like I was talking to someone earlier about there is a version of Dick Hallorann in The Shining where he does come off as a magical Negro. There's 75 black people in this movie. You can't
Well,
have a
I mean, that
magical
is,
Negro when there's that
I'm gonna
many.
say that was surprising. I'm glad that they put more characters of color in this show, but I wasn't sure if they would, because that wasn't common in King's stories. And when they were there, they were tropes a lot of
Oh, they,
Oh,
it's the 80s and the
yeah,
70s and 80s, boy. Whew.
yeah.
They got away with a lot of stuff then.
Not even, I mean, even the more recent adaptations. So, like, they could change characters if they
Yeah.
wanted to. They just
Yep.
don't for a variety of reasons. So it was not, I was very pleasantly surprised to see that it is obviously we know Dick will be a person of color, but like then to see, oh, we're going to expand the Hanlon family and not just make some random white family have that story.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Which
I,
which I agree. It is for Jason and Brad and Andy and Barbara to do that. It shows that like one, they trust the story, and then they're pretty cool people.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, in my opinion.
I do want to dig into though, like the
Let's dig.
supernatural of this because you already said obviously he touches the slingshot, and that plane sequence in episode 3 is really where we first get to see what you can do or what Dick can do. But it's in such a literal heightened environment and such like a also figurative, like the scary thing is that the entity sees him back so quickly. I
Mhm.
did think that would take some more time in the show. Talk a little bit about how you developed what his body language would be when he goes into that kind of, I'm going to say
Mhm.
trance-like state. I don't know if you want to use that term, but just like he's physically there, but he's not really. And like the walking around this plane unaware of of the environment is, I feel like maybe one of the more fun things to do in terms of like playing with the danger. I don't know. You can correct me
I
if I'm wrong.
think the fun of playing one, I believe in witchcraft. So
Okay, so let's start there.
there are things to research to what when you watch, like my wife and I, we went to South Africa. We saw Sangoma. We go to mediums, and it's not whether we believe it or not. I like to try a little bit of everything. The world is big. Let's try everything. Um, so there's some things to be pulled from there when watching some sort of spiritual guide have an experience where it seems like they're in a trance, except they're not. They're on
Hmm.
a huge journey that is costing a lot. So when he touches that slingshot, the question that I would ask myself and my body is, what is the electric current? How does is the brain icy or hot? Is it on
Hmm.
fire? So all this stuff in the present is just to keep living, the
Hmm.
breathing, because once you go to another reality and you hold your breath in
Yeah.
this reality, who knows what could happen? I think I thought a lot about, what does it do to this posture, his breath, and when one finds the connection, as my finger goes out as if it were the electric current for you listeners,
Right.
for the listeners, uh, it's this electric current of searching, and it starts wide, and then it gets narrow, and that has a physical response, and that changes the breath. as one looks, it's like using binoculars to look at the whole world, and then you narrow your focus and
Yeah.
find what you want. And then that costs something
Yeah.
physically. Is it the elbow? Is it the knee? Is it the hip? Why does it have to stand? I think when he stands on that plane that's when it's more powerful than him.
Yeah. Well, that's something I also want to talk to you about because the fact that it sees you back so quickly.
Ooh.
How much were you allowed to play with how much you were losing control? Not just in that scene, but also like later on, like in episode 5, when you guys are then more underground, but arguably just as precarious a situation.
I the re Andy trusts me a lot, and I don't blame him. I mean, not in a like, I'm only good at four things. So it's not like trying to be like not humble, but it's
No,
like everybody.
I didn't say you weren't being humble.
I know, but your listeners like he's a dick.
I was like silently agreeing, like, yes, you're obviously you
I
wouldn't
know,
have
but
the
you were supposed
credits
to
you
agree out
have.
loud for the listeners.
Yes, but if they listen, if you didn't have a skill, you wouldn't have the credits that you have.
I
So I think
wouldn't have the job. I
everybody,
wouldn't.
right.
Yeah, and so
Everyone gets it.
we didn't, there weren't a whole lot of corrective notes. There were just like amplifying notes or angular notes because oh man, Andy's ability to see the thing is way bigger than mine. Just so much bigger, so much
Right.
more developed than mine. So in particular, working with Andy, it's a question of, wait, where should my body be to communicate?
Hmm.
Where should is the hand thing? What does this communicate to you,
Yes.
person whose brain thinks in pictures before words, whereas I feel and then I'm words and then I'm pictures. And so I'm gonna get all the emotions and I'm gonna get all the like elocution, but I don't necessarily like. I think they say Keanu Reeves is another one who just knows his body and the
Mm.
light and the angle and what to communicate. And DPs love him, and that's a skill I've been working to develop because I started doing film and TV well after I had done theater,
Hmm.
and I love that skill. So with Andy in particular, it's working on that. What am I talking about?
Well, I actually want to go back to before we finish that train of thought. I want to go back to the hand thing that you were talking about. Was that on the script or did you develop that?
We all developed that.
Okay.
That's the one thing I'd say was teamwork makes the dream work. Because I shot I wish I could remember the date because I remember shooting it and think we filmed it and I was like, all right, it's done. Oh boy, they didn't like whatever I chose.
Hmm.
They weren't into, which is the first and only time that then I talked to Brad, I talked to Jason and Brad in a meeting, and then Barbara and Andy in the meeting, then Andy in a meeting, then Andrew, who was directing that episode, and then Andy again, because we really wanted to find a way to make the psychic journey more visually active and exciting. And the only person that's going to get that decision, honestly, is going to be Andy, because that's what
Hmm.
his brain does. That's what his brain does. So that was the one thing we all kind of crafted. I mean, we went from like, Professor X to the side of the head to like a
Right.
chin thing to like a ear thing, a throat chakra thing. Was it a heart connecting to the brain thing? And then it's like, well, what's the frame? And 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 then of course Andy's thinking in transitions, Andy's thinking the edit, Andy's thinking in trailers,
Hmm.
and that's just a bigger. I
Yeah.
mean, I look forward to thinking of all those things too. But in this instance, I was like, it is yours, sensei. And so I'd say this thing is 90% Andy.
Okay. Okay.
90% Andy building off of my mistakes.
Let's say your
My
trials.
attempts. My attempts. Yeah,
They're not
yeah, yeah.
mistakes.
They're
That
not-
you got there.
yeah.
Well, because what I found really interesting was that seeing that come up a little bit later in the show made it also kind of feel like Dick as a character was finding it and like harnessing it differently and maybe controlling it a little bit better in certain moments, and then certainly like
And in
the
certain
control
moments,
goes
not. He's a
away.
baby still.
Yeah, well, because I mean, this thing is so powerful. I don't know. It doesn't matter how long he's had this ability. I don't know that he can
Yeah,
defeat
I
it.
don't know that even Dick Hallorann in The Shining can mess with Pennywise, but he'd have a much easier time. I mean,
Right.
this version of Dick isn't even dealing with his full power because of his own fear of his own fear of himself. So
And that's the whole thing is that that's what the entity is feeding on anyway.
Dante is like,
So,
but you're scared.
yeah.
You're
Yeah.
not that strong if you're scared around me. So it's fun to be humbled by a thing that one doesn't understand when one thinks they understand everything.
Yeah. And you talked about second ago when I cut you off and made you talk about the hand. You
No, please,
started
because I ramble.
Well, you were starting to talk about the actual Andy seeing all of the things in the frame. And to me that is also in my mind he sees the final edit with the VFX, which you're not seeing on set. So I do want to talk a little bit about both in 3 and in 5 when you're seeing the flashes and the visions of this entity and what happened through the years and then certainly the reveal of Pennywise. What are you seeing on set, if anything, when we're seeing you and your reactions or your that state that you're in? Are you seeing anything? Or is
On
it
set, anything
yeah.
that was practical for the most part, they were there. You
Okay.
know, like the animals
Well, Bill
falling.
is
Obviously,
there
the
for
the cistern where the kids are floating, that's not there.
no, no.
But that's when they share with us. I think this is Andrew's episode, so he literally shared with us the storyboard for the entire episode,
Okay.
so that we would have those contexts. And then it's the best part of the whole gig is the imagination game. It's the play with it, and hopefully you hit the right intensity for the right emotion. You
Yeah.
build the intensity, and then on take six, you go, well, just call it out to me, man. Just like if I'm not doing it at your pace, tell me when you want to see it. But that's Andrew's episode. I love Andrew. Andrew's another one. He'll give you a note. And he used to give me notes, and I'd go, I didn't think about that. And I think
Hmm.
about everything.
Hmm.
So it's really cool to be around people who I think him and Andy in particular just make people better at things. You know, it's not necessarily Andrew makes people better at just being curious. And Andy makes people better at understanding this visual landscape and being a collaborator because he's such a, even though he has this strong visual thing, he'll ask everybody. Everybody. Some days it's like,
I was
Andy,
gonna say sometimes I think that's too much.
dude, some days there are some moments that none of us will say out loud ever that we were like, why is this person talking? Why is this person? If this person works for 28 minutes and we'll never see them again, why are they asking Andy for anything? Who is controlling the ship? But that's how Andy is. He's just like this big kid who's like, I'm still building it. I remember asking
Hmm.
him, does he always think of the edit? Like, does he know when he goes into the room? Because I direct too, and he's,
Hmm.
dare say, significantly better than me. Respectfully, I love myself. Um, I say, do you have your edit when you go in? I know
Right.
you got your takes. You know, you want one, you want six of scene 15B. You like take two and three. And he says, no. He says, that's the beauty of it. I think I know what I want.
Hmm.
But then I see what you did on the 15th take and go, oh, I didn't see that on the day because I was looking at the light over there.
Right.
And
But
so,
also, I do just want to say that hearing you say you do that many takes of a material that is so hard, like so emotional and like complicated, stresses me out a little bit. Like not
I
in a bad
mean,
way, not like in a, oh my God, what are they doing? They don't, but like in a, I could never, I can't imagine being in that heightened environment that long.
that's fair. That's fair. But the longer we're in it, the better it gets. The
Okay.
more, I mean, in this, not Chris Chalk, but Dick
No, I know.
Hallorann. You
Yeah.
know, if
Yeah.
I'm in 4 feet of water, Chris Chalk, I hate that the
That's what
most.
I was thinking episode 5
Oh,
when you're like in the sewers and I'm like,
awful.
I mean, you know,
And I almost drowned back in the
oh.
day. So like I'm properly water traumatized.
So talk a little bit about filming that because they're not real sewers, but like, what is that set? What did they build for you?
Oh, it's so good. I remember walking into 777, that's what they called it.
Okay.
And on one side, you walk in and it's just so damp. It's like the bones start to ache. One side is the Hanlon's apartment, and then the other side, they built the
Mm.
sewers. And it wasn't filled at first, so we could go through it and we're looking where the blocking of certain things like the repelling, where is that going to be and
Right.
how are we going to do that? Where's the tank part for the part where the fellas, the two boys see him coming out of
Hmm.
the see Uncle Sam coming through the thing, which I didn't know that's what it was going to be until the
Oh,
I had no idea. When I saw that I went, "Oh,
yeah.
that's funny. That's
Yeah.
really funny. Is that what they're afraid of?"
I
Um,
would if I was a soldier. Yes, I would be afraid of a lot of those things.
Oh my goodness. Then when they started adding the water, oh my God. it just got more and more. It was some of the most uncomfortable days. And it works because it's uncomfortable. That's Emmanuel's episode. And I remember when we did the pool work, you know, when it comes
Hmm.
up and comes down and comes up. My wife was there because like I don't swim well. And I said,
Okay.
"Hey y'all, I just want you, I'm down. I want to party. I am a yes and kind of guy. I don't swim well.
Okay.
So we're gonna have to really, you're gonna have to remind me to act in some points."
I thought you were going to
Um,
say she's there in case she needs to save you. Okay.
no, no, no. She's there because she happened to be in town, but also if you're going to let me bring my favorite person who is the
Yes.
most comforting human being on earth, bring them on the day that like we're dealing with something where
Yeah.
I've almost died before. It seems like a reasonable ask. And it even got to the point where I'd go up to her and be like, "How was the take, babe? Was I okay? Was I too scared? No, it was perfect, honey. It was." But we did that at a scuba center.
Okay.
That whole diving part. It was so many different parts for the water.
Yeah.
So it was like it was this extended torture of
It's also
having
just
to keep.
interesting to hear you say you did. Like, I would have called in a stunt double, especially
No,
if
no,
you're
no.
like, I'm not comfortable in water. I've almost died before. Like, get a stunt double, man.
I
That's,
had a stunt double for, even though I tried a lot of things, say the splash, you know, when
yeah.
he jumps into
Yeah.
the water, but it sinks into the big thing. I can't tell who they used for that. I tried it a few times in my stunt double
But
just
that's what
because
I'm
that
saying.
person,
You were willing to try it. I don't
of
know.
course.
There's certain things where I'm like, I'm not even willing to try that. Sorry. No.
Yeah, I'm sure if you put me in heights, that's when I would be like, I think I remember seeing something on some show where an actor was just being pulled 50 feet up and it's
Mm.
just him and there's nothing. Dude, come on. No, no, I'm sorry. No, no, no. That's Pennywise.
That's
That's
fair.
my
Yeah.
Pennywise. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, also, I will say that I find that very interesting about this show is they really are leaning into every character, as you mentioned, like seeing the Uncle Sam, like the different fears that this
Yeah.
entity is getting at with them. I don't feel we've fully seen all of Dick's fears yet in the
No,
first five.
no.
Okay. I want
But
to
you
make
will.
sure there's more coming that we're
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
he still seems pretty cool, pretty controlled in a lot of ways. Like I do want to dig into him a little. I'm glad that the show will do that. I
The
also
unraveling of Dick
yeah,
is
oh,
what we'll
because you
call
said that too at the
it.
start,
Yeah.
and I'm like, well, that's going to take more than 5 episodes, which is great because that means there's a lot more for you on the back end. I am curious about those fears. Were they ones that you saw coming, that you expected for him? How did you feel about?
Yes.
Okay.
I think Dick's pretty clear about what he's most afraid of. Um, he tells Leroy at one point, you know, what he's afraid of and what his grandmother told him to do and
Yeah,
what
I
he
just sometimes, who knows if what they say is everything and if what they say is true.
I think that's what he is most, I mean, himself. He's most afraid of the dark and himself. So without spoiling anything, on a show that wants to torture every single character, I think we got a feeling of what's coming.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it
And
was already pretty dark in that sewer, but it can get
isn't
worse.
that funny? It gets worse. Isn't it funny? It gets worse.
Yeah.
And that's for, you know, that's the beauty of this show is what's the point if it doesn't get worse? I want 10 minutes of good. That's all I want. In the very end, give me 10 minutes of good. I want them to suffer.
It's interesting that you say that because one of the things that I've been saying with this show is we all know they can't actually defeat this entity or the events of it would never happen. So
Hmm.
I don't really expect any good or anything to let up because even at the end, even if they think they've defeated it, we all know they
We
haven't.
know they didn't.
So I know we talked a little bit already about like how the future affected you, but without spoiling the ending, I'm curious if you can talk a little bit about that particular aspect of like how hard can they go at this thing knowing like with all of us knowing they're still going to lose? How did
Well,
that
they
affect
made a
how
first
hard
and a
they go?
second movie too. You know what I mean? Like we saw the first movie and still the exact same thing happened in the second movie and we were okay. I mean, like this is the cycle. All you've got to do with it is last the amount of time that it is feeding. That's the lore of it. And then it is gone. You know, whether
Yes.
it's
It's
whether
just
it's
not gone forever, is what I'm saying.
yeah,
So,
but
like they
like
can't go as hard as they went in It Part Two because
when they
It Part
actually get rid of the thing.
exactly.
Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah. But they can go, I mean, like you can go as hard as you can go harder than it one.
True.
You know what I mean? Like when we thought it was gone and then we went, oh, wait, that's not the lore. I think they can continue to, the harder you go in destroying him, even in these other versions, the more interesting it is to go, and that didn't kill him? And that didn't, and we know that's not going to kill him, but that didn't kill him?
Yeah.
Uh, and that's not, I mean, everybody might be disappointed when they see the ending and go, what is he talking about? But that's how I got to talk about these things.
I mean, I think that makes sense. That's honestly kind of what I was hoping to hear is that yes, you can raise the stakes. You should be raising the stakes. And like the fact that it still doesn't really take him down just speaks to how powerful it is. On the other side of that, I mean, that's always the supernatural entity and the supernatural fear and evil within King's work. But King is also writing these worlds that have human evil.
Hmm.
And we're seeing racism in the show. We're seeing like some of the I don't even really feel like we're seeing the bad parents yet, the way that we did in It, but maybe that'll come later. I
No.
don't know.
Hmm.
I'm curious how you thought of the balance in the show versus the source material. Is there, are we leaning further into that as episodes go on?
What's that question? Say it again.
Are we leaning further into like the human evil, racism,
I
or
mean, like if you're gonna place it in this time period, you're taking the responsibility of being like, and you're gonna make the government thing. These are potential evils. The racism was a potential evil. Even just being a man in this time period, which we can assume you hit your wife, is a potential evil because it's the truth of the world.
Mhm.
You know, if we're not revising history, and we're accepting what was in this time period and we're being responsible filmmakers, which everybody was. There are truths that are also terrifying that are happening at the same time, which I think is the point
Mhm.
of like there's still human. I think that's why this show works is there's real drama, and but then he comes. You know, it just happens to be this would be just as interesting in a different town, but here makes it even more interesting because then you're like, this shit ain't about racism. This ain't got nothing to do with this is just kind of revealing how goofy racism is. Like what a dumb cycle this is
Mm.
because if an alien comes down and wants to eat humans, I'm hanging with everybody. I think as humans, we're so distracted by goofy shit.
That's interesting because when I mean, and this is not an indictment of the show. When I read the book, I always saw it the other way around. I always saw it like this thing can thrive in this town because of how bad the people are. Because the people are doing terrible things. They're being racist to each other. They're beating their kids. They're abusing their kids, their wives, whatever. And so people are already willing to look away from evil things. And so then when this entity comes and it's taking kids, you're already kind of looking away. Like, what investigation into these missing kids are you even doing?
Well, you got to remember though that it almost controls the psyche of the town.
Hmm.
When you leave, you forget about it. You know what I mean? Like when you're an adult, which makes a lot of sense, you're less playful, you're more strict. It's easier to build a reality and stick to it because of the repetition of the brain. So it's like who can you really feed on as kids no matter what? It is bizarre. I love that scene where Taylor's like, somebody get these kids. What's going
Right?
on? And everybody's like,
Yeah, they're just watching. And I'm like, okay, well, I do think that is true. They said boys will be, they still say boys will be
oh
boys.
God,
Like that's
it's
awful, but they
terrible
do
thing to say.
it. And that was just white kids beating on a white kid. So like it was a little bit less coded, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. Not that I'm saying it's a good thing, just that it was a little different than what I thought it was going to be.
Mhm.
I also want to talk a little bit about the black spot because that feels like it's going to be very important. It's a small part of the book, but it feels like it's an important part of Dick's life.
I'd
Is
say
that
it's even an
true?
important part of the, yes. I mean, like if Dick begged to find a safe. I mean, if Dick's whole journey, which it is looking for a safe space, which everybody's journey on Earth is looking for a safe space. He finds a safe space. We're in a show where we are destroying everything. If you've read the book, you know what's coming. But
Right.
this is I mean, we give everybody the things that they love, you know,
So you can take
because
them
it's
away.
fun on the other end.
Okay. I guess I meant from the standpoint of like how much we get to see him in an environment like that going forward versus I'm working, I'm on the base and I'm doing this job and I'm like having these visions and, being a part of this excavation, which is going to doom us all.
The black spot. I mean, I think what this show is also very good at, I keep saying I think, obviously, I'm the one saying it. what this show does well is use what it presents. The Chekhov's gun of it all. If it shows you the thing, it's going to use the thing. These are people who are very good at their job. So I think the audience can like breathe and just be like, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's taken care of. Like no one's guessing. These people put a lot of time and money into developing this thing. Shh, hush, angels. We got you. We got you, angels. It's cool that you have opinions, but just watch the movie. Watch the movie. I know you think you could have wrote it differently, but you
No.
didn't.
Well,
You
I
did.
don't. Well, yeah, probably people are probably saying that. I don't.
Yeah, they're like, oh, this is, but you didn't. But you
Right.
did. Like,
Right.
and these people did. So either watch it or like,
We all were braced, obviously, for what Pennywise would look like because we've seen the movies and we've seen Bill play this character before. Was there anything visual, any of like when the entity takes other forms, was there anything that really surprised you with how big or gory or just crazy looking that it went?
it's less things that I was in. I do remember
Yeah,
seeing
I
this.
kind of figured that. Yeah.
I remember seeing the stunt lady who was like Taylor's stunt lady in a face and like touching it and going, wait a second. Because I'm not going to touch Bill's face. They spent a lot of time putting her in makeup. You know what? Putting him in makeup. Are you kidding me? Can you imagine me reaching up 17 feet in the air because he's so big and then I'm so little and being like, hey, let me mess up your makeup. But I don't mind messing up the stunt double's makeup.
I don't know why. I feel like they can redo Bills. They know how to do it. So
He
like
was
I
in there
feel
for
like
three
he would
hours.
have
No,
been
but he's in there so long. He's in makeup so long that we treat him so well when he gets out.
gotcha.
Because nobody wants to just be sitting in makeup for 3 to 5 hours
Yeah.
and then you start work. Like it can be exhausting being in a makeup chair, and it's definitely exhausting every day getting, he wasn't there for the whole shoot, but when he was there, it was all him every single day when he was there. So we were just like, let's be kind to him. His makeup I thought was incredible when I saw it, but not scary because I've seen it so many
Right.
times, and I was more curious about the craftspersonship it took to make it. Then that Stunty's face, unbelievable. You know what else is amazing? Bill's stunt double or body double. They
Right.
do it to him too.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say they have to
And
because
so that's
yeah,
cool too to go, wait, you're not doing this once. You're doing this 2 times a day. These
yeah.
people are incredible. Then Amanda's scene with the
Mhm.
bed, when I watched that edit, I went, oh, this is expensive and
And
terrifying.
gross. Yeah.
Well, the gross was the first, that car thing, dude.
See, that didn't bother me as
It,
much because I don't, I mean, you said obviously earlier you're a little bit more into mysticism than I have spoken out about being. I don't really believe in a lot of the supernatural stuff. I've never seen it, so I just can't wrap my mind around it. So for me, that was like, it was cool, but it didn't feel as gross because I'm like, oh, that could never happen. But just
oh,
like the way that you take a person and all the blood and like just the viscera of like birth. You
that's
know,
the
like
part
that.
that
I'm sorry. No, thank you.
that's the part that it's the birthing. It's not the little demon entity
Yeah.
thing. Who cares
Yeah.
about that? We've all seen. I always think when you show the thing, you always lose. You
Oh,
can
so
never
you were
show a
talking
thing.
about the birth in the opening, not the demon. Oh,
No,
I
I
was
don't give a shit
imagining you.
about the
Okay.
demon.
Gotcha.
The birth, I was
Yeah,
like,
that was also, but yeah.
ooh, this is brutal. Are you mad at your mom? What is going on?
I mean, always. I feel like they're always mad at their moms. Yes, that's probably a big part of it. But I will also say that Bat Baby in general, I do feel like has potential to be the new like face
Oh,
of a lot of
easy.
this stuff.
Yeah.
Like everyone, people, like the show's not called Pennywise because it's an entity that becomes Pennywise, but it's an entity that can be anything. And I feel like that Bat Baby can give people more nightmares than maybe some of the other things. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
For sure. Maybe. I don't know.
Is there, I don't know how to ask this without just asking you to spoil it, but is there this type of special effects prosthetic makeup that you get to do later in the season? Do we get to see a version of Dick that gets a little Well, I guess it wouldn't be real Dick. It would just be a version of
Well, I
Dick.
mean, like, why are you even finishing that question? What's
Because
the
I know
point?
you can't answer, but I have to
Yeah.
ask.
Yeah. No is the answer to your question. I will not answer it.
Okay. I have to ask because I think that's
Oh, you should ask.
see what's interesting about a character like Dick is that he could already be someone's fear in the sense of he can see into your mind, and that is a scary thing, you know? And so then if it manifests, if the entity takes that a step further for someone and shows a version of him that becomes literally monstrous, I feel like that could be a very cool thing for the you. I know you've already done the show, so like I'm just putting this in the universe, being like, not that they can take this idea and do it if they haven't already, but I feel like they should. That's
My
cool.
friend Josh, he thinks that he's keeping it. I'll say this. He thinks that I'm a part of the entity. And I think everyone should keep their mind as open as possible.
Okay, but has he read the books?
No?
So he's just basing it on the show.
Hmm.
Okay. Okay, I could see that from the show. And I can also see it from the like if all of these
What's
magical things are
real?
connected. Yeah, like what, but at the same time, I'm like, knowing where he goes in The Shining, let's friggin' hope not.
He might have a lot of growing to do.
Fair. Well, this is good because it at least says there's a lot more coming with you, which I think
There's
is
a ton. I
really
mean,
the
like
most
Dick
important
doesn't go
thing.
anywhere.
Yeah,
Dick,
obviously. Yeah.
yeah, and I think if you were to it's storytelling is storytelling. You can't cram everybody in the first episode. You can't cram everybody. Why would we watch if I knew everything? I mean, like this is where the audiences don't realize how entitled and spoiled they are.
No, we
Like
do.
where it's like you get such good storytelling, you're like, but I would do this with you wouldn't have done shit. You wouldn't have done shit. Now just let these geniuses do what they do.
All right, so I do want to ask then, you've said they're geniuses a couple of times. You keep talking about how much you love working with like Andy and
Oh.
everybody. So it seems like this is a really special project. What does this then do for when you're looking at your next projects? Like how does this affect what you try to do next in terms of the people you work with and the type of role you inhabit?
It's less, I can't control the people I work with to some degree. I mean, I already have a very strong barrier to what I will and will not do. And in regards to the humans I work with, uh, I have no control over the crew. This was my favorite crew ever. But before this, Perry Mason was my favorite crew ever. You know what I mean? Like I'm very when my actor friends tell me these terrible horror stories, I'm like, that's not my life.
Hmm.
Like, that's not my life. My life does not work that way. Nobody yells at me. There's always the weird, like, oh, we didn't get a script until the day of. Of course, with some human beings in this industry, that's just how it is. But this crew, I mean, there's an episode that you have not seen that I watched this crew change how they did every single day before that, which was about 9 months of shooting for the
Wow.
safety of me and Jovan. We changed the whole day because me and Jovan were like, we don't feel as safe today.
Hmm.
Can we just look at and this crew that relies on communication? You have to talk. It is loud. That's the funny thing about movies. It's not you're not by yourself. There's 70 people in the room. These 70 human beings showed such generosity and kindness and respect, and they whispered the entire 8 hours of filming, which is hard to do for them. And for them to do that, not for the show, but for us, for Chris and Jovan, man, you can't. I would love that every day of my life. That's something I would love to be like. This is my job, and this is what I do every day. But I can't control that. But I do spend a lot of time making sure that when I am on a show, everybody feels that safe and feels that comfortable. And hopefully you get in a show where, like I did with Perry Mason, Matthew's that
Hmm.
way. Matthew Reese is very just like me. He's like, I got my job. Is the crew
Hmm.
happy? Is costumes happy? Is everybody fed? Is everybody? And then in this gig, because Andy is that way, almost everybody is incredibly generous with their time and their spirit and their energy. So like I would like to work with people like that, but I
Mhm.
also have the skill set to not work with people like that. You know, I have the skill set to work with the complete opposite as well, and that will teach me things as well.
But you are also, I mean, you've said it, and I brought up at the beginning the movie that you directed. Like, you also are, if you're going to direct again, in the
Oh,
position to hire that type of crew that would work that way. Is that coming up?
yes.
Are you okay?
Well, my wife she's at Columbia right now, getting her MFA in
Oh, wow.
screenwriting and directing, which is what the degree's called. I always think that sounds like two different things, but it's the same degree. And she never stops making movies. She's actually the reason we made our movie because she wasn't working. I thought that was crazy. I was like, why wouldn't you hire this crazy woman? So, crazy woman, this crazy talented
I
woman.
knew what you meant.
And
Yes.
Jesus Christ, for the viewers, for my wife watching, I'm so sorry. Holy shit, what am I doing? Why aren't you hiring this crazy woman? No, why aren't you hiring this crazy talented woman? So we made a movie. Uh, and that was the one time I didn't hire everyone individually face to face. I will never do that again. I
Mm,
will never do that. I don't care. I don't care how many people it is. If it's a small shoot, if it's because I'm only hiring 30 to 50 people.
right.
You know, I have to, my wife has enacted this practice and I have enacted this practice of who are they? Are they chill? Are they feeling themselves just the appropriate amount, enough to get it done and be creative and add without being arrogant and egotistical and
Yeah.
entitled? Yeah, yeah. Building, I mean, if I can build a company, our company right now is only two people, but if I could build the company and it's all people who are collaborative and generous in spirit, I mean, I'll build my own little filmmaking cult community.
I mean, don't call it that, but yes.
Yeah, no, there'll be no abuse. It's not a cult.
I mean, I wasn't assuming abuse, but even just the idea of like a pyramid scheme would be,
No, 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 no scheme. It's literally just
yeah, yeah, yeah.
people who
It's
want to
just
make a
like-minded.
movie. Yeah, people who want to just make a movie and have a good time, and also, of course, make money and have fun. But like when you can get a crew like the Welcome to Derry crew, like the um Perry Mason crew. I mean, there's a bunch I could go through. I'm not gonna list all my credits, but there's when everybody is clicking and really in their creative confidence, which is given to you by leadership in the
Right.
network, if all of that is cooking,
Hmm.
then I'm playing pretend for work, dude. Like they're paying me for this. That's crazy
Right.
town.
Right. Well, we're excited. I'm excited they're paying you for this. This was like the only show I was excited about this fall. So I'm glad that
Mm.
it's like so far sticking the landing. I'm sure it will when we get to the end. And thank you so much for coming on. Obviously, I'm going to tell everybody Welcome to Derry drops new episodes Sundays on HBO and HBO Max. And I didn't say this at the start of the episode, but we did talk about things that happened in the first 5 episodes of the show. So if you're not caught up or you just want to rewatch, all 5 episodes are streaming now on HBO Max. And of course, we talked about something from Chris's pop culture past. That was Aretha Franklin's version of Let It Be. And honestly, I'm never quite sure where to tell you to find music these days because so many of the streaming services just don't pay the right royalties to the right places or in the right amounts. Honestly, I re-listened to this one on YouTube. I don't know that I should say I recommend that since it's probably an illegal rip, but here we are. And here we are at the end of another episode of Made Possible by Pop Culture, the podcast. Thank you to Chris for coming on. Thank you all for listening to it and or watching it, commenting, liking, subscribing, following on social media, doing all the things that you do. I'm very much looking forward to delivering you a few more episodes before the end of the year. As always, feel free to comment on who you think they may be with or who you hope they may be with, and stick around for another new episode next week.